The land speeder. Man, what a great, fun toy. And almost every kid had it. It was one of those cheap ones, not like the Falcon or the AT-AT. But it didn't make any sound. One reason it was cheap. You know, it could have had a good sound when it passed by. Maybe some squeaky brake sounds, you know, like when your brakes are going bad. But it was what it was. It's still a lot of fun. We had to use our own mouth to make the sounds. That is, unless you had a toy released by Remco. Yeah, a Rimco toy could make a Star Wars toy or any other toy you had have sound. Let's take a look at it. Guys, it's back with another video, and usually I tell you about a bunch of toys, but today we're going to focus on one toy because he just needed his own video. This ain't something you just skip over looking at pictures of stuff you saw on eBay. Nope, we're going to talk about the Rimco sound effects machine. FX machine. Sound effects. FX. Remember that movie? I think Brian Dennehy was in it. Anyway, it has nothing to do with that movie. This was released in, I looked online. A lot of people say 1981. The copyright is 1979, so it probably hit stores somewhere in the 80s. It ran through 81. I don't think it lasted too long. I don't think it was very successful because they're really kind of hard to find. But what was this Rimco sound effects machine? And how did it make your Star Wars toys have sound? Well, first, let's look at the box. It's a pretty cool box. As you can see, it doesn't really make your toy make sound. It's not like something you hook onto the toy itself. It's just a sound box that had a lot of sounds that you would use while playing with your toys. Again, a land speeder. It probably had that sound. We're going to look at some of the sounds it had, but I don't know if that was one of them. I know it was a helicopter sound. I don't know why you want to make your land speeder sound like a helicopter, but maybe it was the closest sound you could come up with. Now, this thing did, according to the box, it had a limited 90-day warranty. 90-day warranty. Just like my raincoat. And the warranty didn't cover defects caused by abuse or unreasonable usage of the unit. Again, like my raincoat. It sold for around $15. Some magazines, some catalogs at that time have it up to about $20, but it's usually right around the $15, $16 range, which is about a $50, $60 a day, so it wasn't some cheap thing you just picked up at the store. Now, some other companies did come out with their sound machines. It wasn't like the major toy companies, or some of the smaller toy companies came out with some that was about $3, and you only got limited sound. This thing had a lot of sound, and you could almost make your own sound. What it was, a bunch of knobs, and you could change the pitch of each sound and, you know, make it sound a little different. You're like, I don't like that laser. Pew, pew, pew. I don't like that. I want it to go pew, pew. You just turn it down a little bit, change it around a little bit. I know it's probably hard. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? How does a little box make sound? Well, you know how? Because it had a chip inside. No, I'm not talking about a Dorito. It had, and I'm going to have to look at my notes on this one, a Texas Instrument. I didn't have to use that one. 7N76477 analog sound effect chip. I don't know what that is either, but while researching this video, I found out that's the same kind of sound chip that is in a Space Invaders game. And if you remember the first time you saw Space Invaders, that sound was unique. You were like, oh my God, it was unlike anything we ever heard at the time. So that chip that made the sound effect for Space Invaders, the arcade game, was inside this Rimco toy. I don't know, that's exciting to me, maybe not to you. Now, some of you are probably like tech nerds, so you might want to see this. Here's more about the chip. As you can see, it's very nerdy. I can't tell you what I'm looking at. I'm not saying nerdy in a bad way. It's just a lot of information that goes way over my head. But I thought maybe some of you might like to take a look at it. Now, a booklet came with this, and it had a lot of pages of the sound effects you can make. Again, you could also make your own by tuning the knobs. But let's look at the commercial, so maybe you'll understand more about what this toy is.
It's Remco's sound effects machine. 9-volt battery not included.
There he goes on a motorcycle.
Just look in the manual and program the dials.
Into the helicopter.
You can create thousands of sounds and act out different adventures.
An artillery attack.
And with the sound effects machine, you can invent your own sounds.
What's that? UFO.
The sound effects machine comes with instructions for dozens of sounds, plus extra blank sound charts. New from Remco.
That's a vintage commercial if I've ever seen one. Now, let's talk about the sounds you can make. Like I said, you can do a helicopter, a lot of explosions, gun sounds, laser sounds. Yeah, you can have your Han Solo and Greedo out. And I guess while you're playing with it, you can have your little brother being the producer. You're like, you play with that, and when I give the cue, you do the gunfire. So you got Greedo and Han. You want Han to shoot first, of course. And Han comes up and says, "Hey, what you looking at, Greedo?" And your Greedo's like, "Give me my money." And you look over at your brother, and you're like, and your brother hits the button. You go, oh, I died. Okay, I guess you didn't need that. I guess you didn't need all that. But we're gonna take a look at these instructions. Well, not really instructions, the settings of how they get up, what each sound they made. So let's dig into that now. With these instructions right here, you can make a moped motorcycle. Yeah, all little boys wanted to make sounds like a moped. What's a moped sound? And then you have a French police siren. Oh my God, the French one. Remember this one? Oh, it always bothered me as a kid. Listen. And we also have this, a diesel generator. I don't even know what that sounds like. How about bionic strength? You know what that's for. That's playing with your $6 million man sounds. I don't know what it sounds like, but I hope it sounds a little something like this here. Oh, that would be great. And then we have Boeing sound. I guess it's like a spring. It looks like a picture of a spring. And rocket flare, like you're shooting off fireworks on the 4th of July. And you have the sound of a telephone ringing heard through the receiver. And not just the phone ringing itself, but through the receiver. Weird. And you have the sounds of a submarine dive warning. I don't know, probably sounds something like this. Hey, that sounds like a dump truck backing up. And then you had an army troop marching. I guess it's just a bunch of footsteps. And how about a ship's foghorn? No, not foghorn, leghorn. A ship's foghorn. I guess that's what it sounds like. Hey, who needs this machine when you got the Junkman? And you have a single engine prop plane. I guess that's what that sounds like. And how about a phaser, an explosion? A mad scientist laboratory. Has some bells and whistles and maybe some bubbling sounds from those little glass tubes they use. And I guess a sinister laugh. I doubt it did that. And how about a timer at a basketball game? I guess that's what that sounds like. Why does it have to be a basketball game? And then you had a time machine. That's what I think what time machines sound. These aren't official sounds from this unit, so I could be wrong. And then you have a laser hit ray and explosion. And how about a bullfrog croaking? Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Or a cow meow. What kid was playing with this? Who has cat toys and you need this machine? Meow, meow. Ugh. And how about a teapot bowling? Now what? I don't understand. Again, what kid wants to make a teapot bowling sound? Yeah, whistling and a turning off. I don't know what. Mom, my tea is ready. I guess that's what that did. And Morse code sender, not receiver. Beep 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 beep. I think that means SOS. And we have a two-man helicopter. Why it make a different sound if there's one man in it? So what would this sound like? I guess that's what that sounds like. And a UFO landing and taking off. I don't know. Hey, where's Greg Brady? He does a good UFO sound. Okay, Larry, cue Greg Brady. And then you have a 50 millimeter artillery shell whistling explosion, which I think we already did that sound. They just call it something else. Again, these are not official sounds of the machine. You have an Indy 500 race car passing at 203 miles per hour. 203. Why not 200 miles an hour? 203 miles an hour. I don't know. No, Junkman, that's 201 miles per hour. And then you have a time bombing explosive. I guess it's ticking like 60 minutes. Tick, 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 tick. Kaboom! And how about a car trying to start its engine? And a laser beam. I guess that's a laser. A beam, I think it was more steady. I could be wrong about that. How about a ricocheting bullet? Bing, 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 bing. That sounds like a racist stereotype. I better not do that one again. Dynamite explosion.
Dynamite?
A machine gun. Awesome. How about a gunshot? Pow, pow, pow. Or how about a 707 jet plane overhead? What the hell does that sound like? That's not sound like a plane. Let's move on here. A Geiger counter. What? I don't know what that sounds like. A midget racer idling and racing. A midget race car driver. I don't know what a midget race car driver sounds like. Okay, let's start the engine. I guess I don't know. And then we have a bionic telescope sight. Oh, something like this right here. Oh, thank you again, $6 million man. How about a rocket ship blasting off? That's a bad sound. How about a cap gun? Pow, pow, pow. Or pounding surf of seahorses. A pounding surf of seahorses? Kids playing with seahorses. I guess it sounds a little something like this. That sounds like something else I do. As you can see, it made a lot of sounds. Now, I never had this as a kid, but I do remember seeing, I guess, the commercial. I don't know if I saw it at the store or seeing it at the commercial, but I remember not a lot of memories about it. I just remember thinking, oh, maybe I had a friend that had one. I remember thinking it was kind of cool, but I don't think it would have been cool if I got it. It's just, I'm trying to play with my toys over here. I don't got time to run to a sound box, and like I said, I was the little brother, so I would have been on the soundboard machine, I guess, when my brother played. I guess it's for two people, but who wants to just push the button while the other guy's having fun playing with the figures? It was just too complicated. If they found a way, to make it smaller and hook it onto the spaceship or something, I could see. Like I said, it might have been fun one or two times, but I can't see this thing being all that fun, let's be honest. And but judging from the commercial, it didn't really sound like any of the sounds it promised, now did it? Now I know the commercial's old, maybe the sound's bad, but I just don't think the sound technology was up to my standards as a kid when I played with toys. Now, is this thing rare today? Well, I saw a lot of listings for it as being rare, but I really didn't see much on eBay, so maybe it is. When I looked at sold, I found one that was loose, sold for almost $100, and two I found that came with the box, both open boxes. One was a kind of beat up regular box that's about a 50-year-old toy. It sold for about $200. But then the nice box, it looked like somebody taking good care of it, still opened, it was about $400. So that was a price range right there, I guess. It's probably something, if you do find it, to find it still working, probably amazing. Kind of like that troop transporter from Star Wars. 9 out of 10 times that thing's going to be broke. That thing didn't work a month after you had it. Had a little record player in it and everything. But anyway, that's a look at the Rimco sound effects machine. There's probably some kid that played with this as a kid and went on to do sound effects for movies or something. That's kind of cool. Or maybe it just made you get into the sound effects or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling here. But let me know. Did you have this toy? I'm curious if anybody had it or even knew about it. And if you didn't know, you just found out about it now. Let me know in the comments, please. Would you have liked it as a kid? You're like, it's a good concept. I'm playing with my toys. I can make my own sounds. I can go blah, 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 with my own mouth. Let me know that and more in the comments below.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.